In April 2026, Beijing hosted a half marathon that looked like a stunt until you realized what it actually meant. Dozens of Chinese-made humanoid robots lined up for a 21-kilometer race, nearly 40% of them navigating on their own, and the winner finished in 50 minutes and 26 seconds. A year earlier, most of those machines would have struggled to finish at all. That one event told the whole story, better than any press release ever could. China's robotics race is no longer a lab experiment. It is becoming a real industry, with real products, real orders, and real momentum. To understand why that matters, look at the industrial robot market first. The latest full-year numbers still point to 2024, and they are huge. China installed about 295,000 industrial robots that year, which was 54% of all industrial robot deployments worldwide. China's operational stock passed 2 million units, the largest in the world, and industrial robot production reached roughly 556,000 units, up from only about 33,000 in 2015. In other words, the country moved from being a major customer in the world robot market to the market's center of gravity. That speed is what makes the story feel unreal. 10 years is nothing in industrial history, but China used that time to flip the global order. A decade ago, foreign names like Fanuc, ABB, KUKA, and Yaskawa dominated Chinese factories. Today, Chinese manufacturers sell more robots inside China than foreign suppliers, with domestic brands holding about 57% of the local market in 2024. The country that once imported the future is now making it, pricing it, and exporting it. The scale becomes clearer when you compare 2015 with today. In 2015, China produced around 33,000 industrial robots. By 2024, it was producing more than 556,000. That is more than a 16-fold jump in less than a decade. It is the kind of growth people usually talk about in one startup or one product line. Not an entire national industrial base, but China did it across the whole robotics stack: motors, sensors, controls, integrators, software, and factory deployment. The market behind all of this is now enormous. China's robotics market was estimated at around $47 billion in 2024. And the reason it keeps growing is simple. Every robot creates more demand for parts, software, maintenance, integration, and upgrades. Once factories start automating at scale, the ecosystem grows around that automation. China already has more than 2 million industrial robots running in its factories, so this is no longer a pilot phase. It is a compounding industrial machine. The company's story is just as striking. Estun Automation has become China's largest domestic industrial robot manufacturer, with a 9.5% share of the Chinese market in 2024. Its 2023 revenue was about 4.65 billion Chinese yuan. Siasun, one of China's earliest robotics pioneers, reported in 2023 revenue of around 3.97 billion Chinese yuan, roughly $550 million equivalent. These are not fringe firms anymore. They are billion yuan scale industrial companies fighting for control of one of the most strategic markets in the world. Efort shows how far this shift has spread. It held about 5.4% of China's industrial robot market in 2024, making it the fourth largest domestic supplier, and 44% of its revenue came from exports. Its robots are already being used in industries tied to BMW, Volkswagen, Fiat, and Maserati. That is the old order being challenged in plain view. Chinese robotics is no longer just competing at home. It is showing up in the production systems of the world's biggest manufacturers. Inovance adds another layer to the picture. It entered the industrial robot market later than many rivals, but by 2024, it had climbed to become China's second largest domestic robot manufacturer, with an 8.8% market share. That matters because it means China's robotics rise is not being carried by a single breakout company. It is being built by a broad ecosystem of firms that keep taking share, lowering costs, and pushing deeper into automation. Exports are where the story turns global. In 2024, China became the world's second largest robot exporter by value, and in the first half of 2025, exports reportedly rose by 61.5%. Another industry report said China shipped 94,200 robots abroad in the first half of 2025, up about 60% year over year. The message is obvious. Chinese robotics is not just feeding domestic factories. It is becoming a supplier for manufacturing hubs across Southeast Asia, Latin America, and beyond. The same pattern is now showing up in humanoids, and this is where 2026 starts to feel like a different era. Reuters reported that China accounted for more than 80% of the world's 16,000 humanoid robot installations in 2025. Two domestic leaders, AgiBot and Unitree, each shipped more than 5,000 units last year, the highest volumes in the world. The practical use cases are still early, and many robots are used for research, entertainment, reception, or inspection, but the scale is already unmistakable. China is not just leading the conversation about humanoids, it is leading deployment too. Unitree is the clearest sign of how quickly the race is moving. In March 2026, Reuters reported that Unitree filed for an IPO on the Shanghai Stock Exchange, aiming to raise 4.2 billion yuan, or about $610 million. The company's operating income rose by 335% in 2025, and its net profit jumped 674%. That is a stunning jump for a company that only recently became a household name in robotics. UBTech is moving just as fast. In January 2026, Reuters reported that the company signed a deal with Airbus to expand humanoid robot use in aviation manufacturing. Airbus has already purchased UBTech's Walker S2, and UBTech said its humanoid robot orders exceeded 1.4 billion yuan in 2025, while production capacity for industrial humanoids is expected to pass 10,000 units in 2026. That is the kind of detail that changes the feel of the whole market. This is no longer just a showcase industry. It is entering factories, supply chains, and global industrial contracts. Then there is LinkerBot, which says even the smallest part of a humanoid can become a giant business. Reuters reported in May 2026 that the company is targeting a $6 billion valuation, up from a recent $3 billion round. It dominates more than 80% of the global market for highly dexterous robotic hands and currently makes about 5,000 units a month, with plans to scale much higher. That sounds niche until you remember that humanoid robots are only as useful as their hands. The hand is where a machine stops being a moving object and starts becoming a worker. The global tech industry is also treating China as part of the center of this race, not a side market. In June 2026, Reuters reported that NVIDIA plans to work with humanoid robot makers in the US, Europe, South Korea, and China's Unitree, using Unitree for the robot body and another supplier for the hands, while NVIDIA provides the computing layer. That matters because robotics is now crossing into the same strategic arena as chips and AI models. Whoever supplies the brain, the body, or the hands is no longer just a hardware vendor. They are part of the infrastructure of the next industrial wave. So where does this leave the world robot market? It leaves China in a position that is hard to ignore. In industrial robots, it already accounts for more than half of global annual installations. In domestic market share, Chinese firms have overtaken foreign rivals at home. In exports, they are moving faster every year. In humanoids, China already dominates deployments. And in 2026, the companies driving that progress are not speculative names on the edge of the market. They are public, scaling, signing global deals, and filing for IPOs. The real question now is not whether China dominates the robot market. It does. The real question is how much wider the gap becomes by 2030. If the current pace holds, China will keep leading industrial robot demand by a wide margin, keep expanding exports, and keep turning humanoids from demos into products. If the 2026 momentum around Unitree, UBTech, LinkerBot, and NVIDIA's robotics push keeps building, the next phase may be bigger than factory automation alone.